Hi, everyone. Today we're here with Kettering Health to talk a little bit about their hiring process and what they look for in new graduates. So I will turn it over to Missy to get started.
Thanks, Kelly. Like she said, my name is Missy. I work for Kettering Health, and I am a part of the talent development team here. And our team really focuses on building relationships with students at different schools and universities while they're still going through their classes and hopefully getting them opportunities as they graduate and go into the career force. And so I'm going to just go over a presentation today to tell a little bit more about Kettering, some of our opportunities, and then just give you some tips for resumes and also for interviews. And so just to start, so again, this is just my title. I've been with Kettering for about 4 years. I mainly was on the talent acquisition side to start with, and I recently transitioned over to my new team, and it's been a great transition, and I'm really passionate about what our goal is and just working with students like you. So if you're not familiar with Kettering, we are located around the Dayton area. And on the screen, you'll see the map that we have. So we go pretty far north. We go all the way up to Piqua, and then our furthest south, which is closer to you guys, is in Fort Hamilton. And so you can see that we have a lot of different locations. We have 13 medical centers. We have over 120 outpatient facilities, and we have over 14,000 employees. So we are a growing network. Within the last 4 years, we have opened a few different hospitals. And so I think when I started, we only had 9 hospitals, and now or 9 medical centers, and we're up to 13. So we are growing. You'll probably see us on billboards and commercials. And now that we are the health provider for the Cincinnati Bengals, that's another cool thing that's more in your neck of the woods. And so we are a faith-based, not-for-profit organization, and we have all the different nurse specialties that you can think of. We have some hospitals that are bigger than others, and we do have some of those freestanding EDs where you can go for that emergency care. And so some different career opportunities that we do have. So for NAs and RNs, you do have the opportunity to work more in that bedside position, and you can be in med-surg. We have women's pathway program, ICU step down, ER, behavioral, OR, rehab, oncology. We have the full gamut. Whatever you're interested in, we have it, and they are really open to new grads. Women's and the OR can be a little bit harder for a new grad RN to get into just due to the acuity and specialty. But then if you are a new grad RN moving into a role with Kettering, you would move into a full-time position. And we do like you to stay full-time at least for your first year, just to get that full training and orientation under your belt so that you can feel more prepared moving forward in your career. And then I know there are some individuals who are in the LPN program and might eventually move into the RN realm. For LPN opportunities, those would be more in our outpatient clinics or our physician offices. And so we do have a few different areas, including cardiac trauma, OBGYN, neuro, ortho, oncology, and a few different other ones as well. So we don't have LPN opportunities as much in the hospital realm, but we do have it in that outpatient or physician office realm. And why should you start your nursing career at Kettering? We have a really big CNO and leadership presence on the units. They love to do weekly roundings, come and meet people. They are higher up in the organization. So it is a really big deal for them to come and try to meet people, put faces to names, and to really get to know you, see what's going on the unit, so they know how better to help and support everyone. We also do have town halls where you get updated about what's going on throughout the network. And then they are present and visible in orientation or residency classes as well. So I think that's a cool aspect. A lot of times in different areas, you don't really get to meet the people higher up in organizations, but Kettering takes that really seriously, that we want those connections to be made so that you know who to go to and who to ask questions to. And we are also really big on internal promotions. So, if you're going into an NA position, LPN, or eventually your RN position, if you have desires to go above and beyond that area, we want to make that happen for you. We want you to get to that end goal of where you want to be in your career. And so we always look internally for internal promotions for team leader positions, for manager roles, and internal transfers happen all the time. It's something that we really pride ourselves in, is to help our employees get to where they want to be. So that can definitely build the employee engagement and make you the happiest and do the best in your role. We are also a very community focused organization, and that's something that I really love about our culture. We feel really supported and cared about. They really do care about you as an individual, not just what you can do in your position, but they want you to have a good work-life balance and to really enjoy all aspects of life, your work life and your home life. And so I think that that's something that I appreciate, especially going through COVID. They're very flexible and just really supportive, especially even during that really hard time. And something that I personally love, it's not something that is required of anyone who works for the network, but we are faith-based. And you can just see that through the practices that we have and the interactions with team members, and then also between our employees and patients. And so again, it's not something that's required of you to work for Kettering, but if it's something that interests you, it's something that you can express in your work, which can be really exciting. And this is more geared for the new grad RNs. We do have a residency program once you start your career with us after you pass your NCLEX. And so every new grad does go through this. It is a year-long program where you'd be working on didactic cases. And then there are also 6 different tracks that you would go through. So if you went into med-surg, you would go through the med-surg residency track. Or if you went into ER, it would be more specific to what specialty you were specifically going to. And that's something that does set our residency apart from some different hospitals, is that we have really tried to hone in on the specialties and the practices and skills that you're going to need for your specific area. And then we also, like I mentioned earlier, we do focus on that professional development to help you transition to the your nursing practice. And so you're going to have a dedicated preceptor with you during that time that you can ask questions to, and they can help you work on any of those different skills that you might be struggling with. And at the end of the program, there would be a graduation and a celebration with your cohort. And you would also have the opportunity to go through a course and be able to become a preceptor yourself. If that's a goal and desire of yours to help other new nurses get acclimated and make that transition after school, that's something that you can train to become, which I think is really cool. And then one other fun fact is, if you want to continue your education, so if you want to go and get your bachelor's or eventually your master's, you can apply for tuition assistance. We do require individuals to eventually get their bachelor's if they only have their associates within 5 years of employment. And so you can apply for tuition assistance for your bachelor's. And because it is something we require of you to get, you would be guaranteed to receive assistance. And so you could go to Kettering College, which is associated with Kettering Health. If you work for us and go to Kettering, you would get a 30% discount. And then you would also get that tuition assistance as well. And then if you go to a different undergraduate program, you would also get a benefit. It would just be slightly less if you went outside of Kettering College, but we welcome anyone to go to whatever program they feel comfortable with. And then if you want to go even further to go to a graduate program, that's something that you could apply for. And it would just be reviewed to see if it is applicable to your career growth and what would be needed for you to move in the organization. And so for our overall hiring process and what we do is you would just go onto our careers page, which I will have that link on a next slide here in a bit, but you would just create an application and apply to open positions that you're interested in. You can apply to as many or as little as you want. Once you apply, your resume does get reviewed by a person, not a computer. So we actually have individuals on our team who review every resume that comes through, and they send it over to the hiring manager. Once it gets sent to the hiring manager, they'll review the resume, and if they feel like you'd be a good fit for their team, they will reach out to set up an interview with you. So it could be in person, so you can come and see the unit, or they could set up virtually if that ends up working better for you. But they would set up an interview. You could go through a series of interviews if they initially want you to meet themselves to the manager, but then they can also do a panel interview with maybe some different individuals on the team, so you can get to know them as well and get to know more people on the unit. And then if the whole team feels comfortable and feels like you'd be a good fit for their culture on the unit and for that specific position, they could make an offer to you. And so at that point, the recruitment team would give you a call, go over all the offer details. And if you were to accept the position, you go through our onboarding process, which just includes references, background, and then a pre-employment screening. And then you would get scheduled for your first day. Obviously, if you started in a nursing assistant position before you moved into an RN role where you would need to pass your NCLEX before starting, you could immediately start more with the NA role, but you would just have to wait until you pass your NCLEX to start in that RN role. And then that's when that onboarding process would start. And then we would get you started on a start date. And for the residency portion, we can have you start whenever. So there's not a certain date that you have to start on to start within a certain residency. You can start as soon as you're able to. And so that's our overall hiring process, pretty easy. And we do try to make it pretty quick overall. We're trying to be more quick and efficient. So you should hopefully get in contact with someone if they are interested within a few days. And moving into more of the resume interview tips. So we're going to start with resume tips. And I did put an example resume on there of just an RN role, an RN resume. And so first and foremost, it's always important to put updated contact information and just updated information in general on your resume. You want to make sure that the number is correct. So it's always good to proof everything that you put on your resume. Make sure the number is correct. So a nurse manager or anyone in the organization could get a hold of you by your phone. And then also a professional email is very important. So I know I made an email back when I was younger that wasn't super professional. So it's always good to maybe just use your school email or a Gmail account that you've made recently that just has your name. And is just more professional than some of the ones that we made when we were younger. And then, and I mentioned just having updated information in general. So anytime you get a new job, it's always smart just to add it to your resume pretty quickly, so you don't have to do a lot of catch-up work, once you want to apply to a new position. And then we always recommend with being a new grad is putting your education towards the top, because especially with different health organizations, we look to see that schools are accredited by the standards that we are looking for. So we always like to have education towards the top, so it's easy for us to make that determination. So you just want to say where you're going, what you're getting your degree in, and then when you're expected to graduate. So that makes it helpful for us when we're sending information over to managers. and then putting your experience in chronological order. So starting with what you're currently doing and then moving backwards. If you do it the opposite way, it can just be hard to see what you're currently doing and how long you've been working. So just moving from what you're currently doing and then moving backwards in time. And then any relevant certifications, clinical hours that would be beneficial for the job that you're applying to. So if you have your STNA certification and you have some of that type of experience, putting that on your resume is always recommended. If you have clinical hours that you've completed for school, it's good to put that information on there so they can see where you've done your clinicals and what experience and what in certain specialties that you do have. And when you do put your experience on there, always good to put where you worked, what your position title was, the dates that you've worked, so month and year, if you're able to do that, and then just a few bullet points about items that you do on your job. So being specific is good. Putting, if maybe you only worked at McDonald's or some of those positions, you don't have to put a ton of bullet points. We probably know what you did. It's more of a customer service role. But if you got recognized for something, or if you became a team lead, or you were the one who was doing the schedules, putting information like that is always helpful to show that you did take on some more leadership roles in that previous position. And then we always recommend that you don't need to put a picture on your resume. It's not fully needed because they will meet you in person, and so you don't need to put a picture on your resume because it takes up more space, and it's just not needed overall. And then some interview tips. When you go to an interview, you want to make sure you bring multiple copies of an updated resume. So I mentioned that previously, that you just want to make sure everything's updated. So bringing multiple copies, because it could just be one person interviewing you, or there could be a few. So you want to make sure that everyone has a copy. So when they're talking to you and asking questions, they can all go through your resume at the same time. And you do want to dress appropriately. So you just want to make sure you're not showing up in jeans or sweatpants, sweatshirt, anything like that. So sometimes showing up in scrubs, if it's a clinical role, is not a bad thing. You can always, if you're coming from a job where you do wear scrubs, you can always just confirm with the manager if that would be okay. But a good rule of thumb is maybe just to dress business casual. So dress slack, so it could be khakis or black pants, and then a nice blouse, or for gentlemen, for a button-down shirt and maybe a tie if you feel comfortable wearing that. And something to always remember is to go in asking questions. You are also interviewing them to see if this would be a good fit for you. Just like they are interviewing you and asking questions to see if you would be a good fit for their unit or for their position. And so it is a two-way street. It's good to ask questions to see if that's really where you want to be, and somewhere that you'd be passionate about working at. And then a good rule of thumb is to also just practice behavioral-based questions. That is a really big tool that interviewers use, is asking those questions. And I do have a few examples on the next slide of what that looks like. You can do a quick Google search about behavioral-based questions. It's just really thinking about past experiences that you've had and how you've acted in a situation, and applying it and seeing how you might apply your past experiences to future situations. And so, like I said, I'll give you a few examples of what that might look like on the following slide. But something else to do after the interview is to follow up. So we usually say maybe between the 24-hour to 48-hour time frame is just to send a follow-up email and just thanking the interviewer for their time, showing again your interest in the position and your excitement that you have for potentially working there. So an email does suffice for that, but if you want to go the extra mile and send a handwritten card in, you can also do that as well. But an email nowadays is definitely acceptable. And so for behavioral-based questions, these are just a few examples of what you could be asked. But again, you can just do a general Google search And you can even put clinical-based questions that you might see in an interview. And so first one is describe a time when you had difficulty learning something complex. So you can use maybe something in your past position or even in school, something that you struggled learning and how you got through that. And then also describe a situation when you wished you'd been more collaborative with others at work, and what did you do? And last question, tell me about a situation when a peer or team member strongly disagreed with your ideas or actions. How did you handle the situation, and what was the result? And so these type of questions just really help people see how you reacted in a situation, and if something like that, something similar comes up in the future, what your future behavior might be. And so always good to practice and be prepared, so that you don't want to be too scripted, but just so you have some examples of different things that happened in your past that might be good to bring up and show how you overcame certain situations. And something, this is just how to apply to our positions. But going back to how to apply in our hiring process, you would just go to this link, our careers page, and you would just create an application there. It's pretty easy. And again, you can apply to multiple positions or just a few, depending on what you're interested in. And so you can just click on that and go look at some other cool things on our website as well. And if you do want to get in contact with me personally, this is my email address. I did recently get married, so that is why my last names don't match. So it is missy.moore@ketteringhealth.org. So you can email me if you have questions about your resume. If you have different questions about positions and how to apply, you can always reach out to me if needed. And so that's pretty much it for the presentation. And so, like I said, if you want to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to do so.
Missy, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. And this is going to be helpful to so many of our students. So thank you for doing this with us today.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.